God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is what I believe the finest weekend of the year in the National Football League, Brad. It is Wild Card Weekend. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California, and we have so much to talk about when it comes to these playoff games. It is, Brad, my favorite time of the year. It is Wild Card Weekend. The NFL has turned it into a Wild Card Saturday, Wild Card Sunday, and they've given us a very special Monday night Wild Card edition as well, which is featuring one of your favorite quarterbacks in the National Football League this year, one Mr. Matthew Stafford, who I must say is definitely, as I've said before, skiing on the backside of Career Mountain. He is skiing downhill, Mr. Hoyseth.
Yeah, well, first of all, let's get this out of the way. Dave won the regular season. I know he's over there and he's feeling all, look at his chest is all puffed out, the whole thing, right? And he managed to squeak by. Now, he won by 3 games. Dave had a good run at the end of the year. I did not have a good run at the end of the year. I can make up a ton of excuses like COVID and all kinds of stuff, but I just didn't get it done. But it's a whole second season, as they call it now, Dave.
Yeah.
And we'll be tabulating these things as we go. I don't know how far down the line we'll go in the playoffs, but today we had to do a show. There's just so many things to talk about, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you think of the, I have to just get this off my chest. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with the Miami Dolphins organization? Just absolutely unbelievable. Your head coach, the team loses 7 games in a row. Brian Flores turns things around. They win 7 games in a row. First time in the history of the National Football League where a team has lost 7 and won 7. Brian Flores is a hell of a young coach in the National Football League. Look what he's been dealing with all year and how quickly that management team in Miami forgets that Adam Gase was their head coach, and Flores came in and cleaned up that entire mess. Look, if you're one of the 8 teams in the National Football League that is hiring a coach this year, Brian Flores should be at the very, very top of your list. He is a hell of a young coach. Absolutely deserves another chance immediately. The Dolphins should be forced to sell. Like Stephen Ross should be forced to sell that football team because of that poor decision that they made with Brian Flores. Just absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time a guy got fired and he won 8 out of his last 9 games? I bet that's never happened, Dave. I don't know if it has or not, but that's what Flores did. I think the thing that really rankled the Dolphins with Flores was early in the season when he made it public that he wanted Deshaun Watson, with Watson having all of his problems. And I think the message that he sent to the Dolphins organization is that I'm not happy with Tua as my quarterback. And that will usually cause a rift between the coach and the general manager, who likely was the person that chose Tua. And the rest is history. Flores is gone. And, you know, we hit last week on, we tried to predict which coaches were going to be gone. I didn't suspect we were going to have 8 of them. Yeah. Flores was obscene. I thought the firing of the guy in Houston was a little, I didn't think that was very justified. I mean, that's not a very good football roster. Your best 3 weapons on offense was a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, an old, aging wide receiver in Brandon Cooks, and I think the starting running back at the end of the year was Rex Burkhardt, whatever his name is, the guy the New England cast off.
Yeah, it was Rex Burkhardt. Yeah, the thing about the Houston job was like they didn't even want to hire Cooley when they hired him. It was sort of like you know how like when you were a kid and you were playing kickball and you were it was like the last person picked. It was like the last available person that the Houston Texans could get last year, it was always going to be a short-term hire. I felt like he at least earned another year, especially because they haven't figured out what to do with Watson yet. It's a total mess. There are rumors all over the place that the GM was actually calling plays into the quarterback's headset. Is an absolute disaster. I would not have put the Houston Texans down as the worst organization in football at the start of the year. But based on what I've heard in the last 6 months, I have to tell you, it's just a disaster.
I agree. I mean, and, you know, that team really actually played pretty tough football all the way down to the stretch. I mean, last week, Tennessee went into the final game of the season needing to win to lock up the 1 seed. They had everything to play for, and Houston gave them everything they wanted. I mean, that game was close down to the end, and, you know, Tennessee ended up winning, getting the 1 seed. But the guy, he really showed me something down the stretch. I thought that team play hard in a really tough situation. They really don't have a lot of talent on the roster. Defense isn't very good. And like I said, the offensive weapons are almost non-existent. And so to play that hard down the stretch, they got to win. I think it was in week 17. And then they played Tennessee pretty tough the last week. I just didn't think it was really justified. But some of the other ones, obviously, we predicted Zimmer was going to be gone. Everybody kind of knew Matt Nagy was going to be gone. Most of us, including you and I, both thought that Fangio was probably going to be gone in Denver. And then, thank goodness, finally, Joe Judge was let go with the Giants on Tuesday, Dave. I know that you had to have seen that play. It was like probably the worst offensive play call I've ever seen, Dave. I mean, it goes for Giants fans, it goes back to Joe Pisarcik, right? I mean, it was they had, I think, I was watching, you know, NFL Red Zone, and they go with all these highlights, and they're showing the Giants on their own 5-yard line or something like that. And it's 3rd down and 9. And I didn't see the clock. And it looked as if they were lining up to just take a kneel down. And lo and behold, the quarterback takes it, goes up the middle for a 2-yard gain. And I look at the clock, and there's still 8.5 minutes left in the second quarter. I'm going, what is this guy doing? It was embarrassing. And you could read the lips on the Giants fans. And trust me, it was something blanking clown show was what one of them said. So, yeah, thank goodness that guy's gone, because that was a disaster in New York.
Yeah, I mean, Brad, you texted me about it. I was sort of out of the home office, so I had to come back and watch it, and I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe what I saw. And what's even worse than all of that, so Gettleman resigns like Sunday night or whatever it was. The announcement's made on Monday, and then like, what was there to think about after seeing that play? I've been talking about for years how great it would be if like a coach got fired at halftime or in game or something. Like, if ever there was the opportunity for that to happen, it was with Joe Judge. And for this Giants organization to have to even mull it over for an extra 24 hours, that they should somehow try to convince themselves to keep Joe Judge is absolutely ridiculous. If you think about it, this organization has been a mess since they won the Super Bowl, since Coughlin has been gone. It's 5 coaches in, 5 coaches out, an average of, I think, 2 years per head coach. It is just an organization that's heading in the wrong direction for sure. I did want to just throw this out real quick before we get into the wild card weekend playoff picks. Vic Fangio did an okay job. He's a defensive minded, sort of head coach. He did an okay job. He did not have a top tier quarterback. He didn't even have like a middle tier quarterback. And he even basically intimated that in his press conference. Matt Nagy finished his career in Chicago over 500 as a head coach. It's obvious what happened with Nagy. He lost fan support and he lost some internal support. But can Matt Nagy coach a football team to a 500 record? Yeah, he sort of proved that. You take a guy like Mike Zimmer, who coached the Vikings for, well, I don't know, it seemed like forever, Brad. 72-56. He's a really good coach. Just could never quite get over the top. I've had a couple buddies ping me and say, what do you think is the best opportunity to win immediately in the National Football League for a new head coach coming into one of these 8 situations? And, for me, the Viking job, you've got a good ownership group. You've got decent talent on the team. You're probably going to have to absorb that $45 million Kirk Cousins contract anyways. So you might as well, in that first year, sort of take advantage of his mediocrity at quarterback, which is better than half of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it's a good place for just about any coach to go to and be successful in. It's not a rebuild the way a bunch of these other teams are. So I will. I did just want to sort of get that in. And then the last thing I want to say is this came out a little bit earlier today, and I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell you, Brad. I was like, I'm going to text Brad, and then I was like, no, I'll just tell him on the show. I think maybe Carson Wentz might be gone. I don't think that, based on what the GM came out and said earlier today, I don't think they're going to renew his $13 million contract. I think Carson Wentz is going to get cut. And he should get cut. If you look at the performance of Carson Wentz against the worst team in the National Football League in the Jacksonville Jaguars, I know it's a team sport, but I can attribute a lot of that particular loss on the way Carson Wentz played at QB against the. It's almost as if they were looking forward. They were looking past the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you can never, ever do that in the National Football League.
Yeah, there was one other thing I needed to get off my chest before we jump into these games, too, as long as we're getting stuff off our chest.
It's a vent session is what it is.
Right? We all watched the Chargers-Raiders the other night. And, I was going to make a comment on some of these younger coaches. And basically, the guy I'm pointing at is Brandon Staley in Los Angeles at the Chargers. The kid in Cincinnati, Zach Taylor, who's had some success, and also the guy in Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury. And I talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how these guys, they have no conscience when it comes to going for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
And last week I saw Staley go for it. They were down 3-0 in the first quarter, and he's on his own 19-yard line going for a first down on a 4th down play. And again, he ends up getting burned, and he got bailed out by his defense because they held him to a field goal. But I've seen it with these 3 guys in particular, and they're getting burned more and more and more, Dave. And my theory is that they all grew up playing Madden EA Sports. and it's to a point where they forget that you can't just turn off the game and start it up again and start a new game. This is the NFL, and everything counts. And I just get a sense that I don't know when these guys are going to grow up and change, because I don't see them winning a championship playing that style of football. At some point, you got to be a little smarter. Now, there's younger guys that aren't in that camp. I think Matt LaFleur is probably the best young coach out there. I think the job he did in Green Bay, just the tough situation with Aaron Rodgers, all that kind of stuff, that's a tough situation to handle. There's a ton of pressure there to win. And I thought he did a great job at it. I like the kid in Philadelphia. I think he's done a great job. But I just had to point out I've been saying it for 3-4 weeks now. It's almost like another pandemic. People just keep going for things on 4th down, and sometimes they're in terrible situations on their own side of the field. And I don't know what Staley was thinking there. I mean, did he suspect that if they got the first down, they were going to go down the field to score? I mean, It's the first quarter, for crying out loud. And what happened? They ended up going to overtime. They lost by a field goal. And we saw him blow it against Kansas City like 3 weeks before that, when he kept going for it on 4th down. And in a game where they should have scored 50 points, they ended up scoring 38 and getting beat by the Chiefs in a game where they led by, 27 points or something. And so I think the most egregious thing was that I saw all week was Staley going for it on fourth down. It's right up there with the Joe Judge play. We always talk about a couple plays each week. The Joe Judge play is an all-timer, but Staley going for it on fourth down at his own 19, to me, that was just insane.
It is. It's like, I was like, what is he doing? The truth is, like, the Chargers should have been in the playoffs already heading into that last game. So, he'd already sort of lost me with some of his play calls, as you just pointed out, especially the Kansas City game. But there were other examples. We could probably do a show on the top 10 bad calls by Brandon Staley, in the last half of this, in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. It definitely was something that was difficult to watch, and then calling a timeout at the end of the game, where there's the possibility that the Raiders are going to just say, it's okay, we'd rather play Kansas City and not.
Yeah, it's a talented.
Just the possibility of them just allowing the Chargers into the playoffs, just mistake after mistake. I agree with you. I think a lot of this is related to video games. It's just really interesting to see.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. And, some of these coaches say they've grown up just going for it on fourth down. And, but now they're playing with real money in the NFL. And if Brandon Staley keeps doing that kind of stuff, to me, he is directly responsible for 2 losses at the end of the year. And they missed the playoffs by 1 game. So if I was a GM, he'd be on a very, very short leash at this point forward.
Yeah. And look, the Chargers are not afraid to fire people in the middle of the season. I mean, they are not the Chicago Bears, which I felt bad for Matt Nagy because of it. Because obviously they were going to fire him, but they don't fire anybody in season. So they just make you suffer. Anyways.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with this first game we got on our list. And I think you and I are going to disagree on this one. And that is the Raiders at the Bengals. And the Cincinnati Bengals are 6-point favorites at home. And I got to tell you, Dave, I love the way the Raiders are playing right now. And both these teams seem to be fairly healthy. It looks like Josh Jacobs is going to be fine. Looks like Darren Waller is going to be fine. But they've really found something in Hunter Renfrow in recent weeks. And another guy that's really emerged, in particular here in the back half of the season, is Zay Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm going to take the Raiders on the road with the 6 points. I think it's entirely possible Cincinnati might win the game. But I thought 6 was a rather large number, and maybe we can get Zach Taylor to go for a few fourth downs in his own end, and if he gets stopped, they'll be the second team in a row to get beat by the Raiders that way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Zay Jones. Tremendous work ethic. He's that guy that stays after practice for an hour and continues to sort of improve.
How would you know? You never stayed after practice an hour.
Yeah, I definitely was not that guy. But he is that guy, and he's tremendous asset to that Raider team. He's probably not a top tier wide receiver by any stretch of the imagination, and I certainly, as much as I like Zay Jones, I don't think I'd hang my hat forwards or backwards on Zay Jones's performance against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. But I look at this, and to me, like, the Raiders, they barely beat the Chargers at home. I will admit, like, we got 6 games to pick this week. It's the wild card weekend. Stuff happens. There's going to be, this is the weekend where there's there's 2 major upsets. It's going to come somewhere. But I think, like, the Bengals, are stronger across the board. I see the Bengal defense, doing a slightly better job of stopping the run than the Chargers did. This game's in Cincinnati. I don't believe in this Raider team. So then it really sort of came down to, will Cincinnati cover 6 points? And so I'm going to go and roll the dice. I don't think Joe Burrow will smoke a cigar again until he wins a AFC championship. But he'll certainly smoke one privately after this wild card weekend.
Yeah, I just like the way the Raiders are playing coming in. They've won a bunch of games in a row. I feel like they've got a lot of momentum on their side. They just won a playoff game last Sunday night, because that's basically what that game was with the Chargers. That was a playoff game. And they played well. I mean, that's a good Charger team. And, the Raiders overcame a lot in that game. There was a lot of adversity. And, Derek Carr is an experienced veteran now that's been around for a while. The team is healthy. They're playing hard. And I think they really like their coach and their coaching staff. And so I just thought 6 was a lot of points, so I took the Raiders.
Yeah, it is. A lot of things playoff games are decided by 7 points or less. So when we start getting into this, we start getting into these things that are around 6 points or some other spreads we'll have later in the show. It definitely becomes a little scary. All right, moving on to our second game of the wild card weekend. You've got the Bill Belichick New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. Bills at home in the cold, favored by 4 points. All sorts of interesting stuff out there from a statistical perspective about how Josh Allen doesn't play well in the cold weather. Below a certain degree, Josh Allen doesn't play well. All this stuff. That probably doesn't, honestly, if you're into analytics, there's probably not enough data to really draw any real conclusions. That being said, I look at this game and I think, okay, Brian Flores got canned. The Dolphins beat the Patriots twice this year. Brian Flores I still can't believe that. I am having a hard time believing that the play, the strategy that the Patriots used the last time they were in Buffalo, which was, run the ball 95% of the time, allow Mac Jones to throw it twice. I think it was in that game. You can't do that in a playoff game like this. The Bills are going to win this, and I'm happy to give up the 4. I seriously doubt that this is going to be one of the big upsets of the weekend, because that's what it would be if they won.
Well, you never count Bill Belichick out of anything, that's for sure. We all know that he's the master strategy guy, and he's the Bobby Fischer of coaching, really. But I'm in agreement with you here. I think Buffalo's the winner in this game. This will be the third time these teams have met in the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And Buffalo played okay the first time and lost despite in that weird game with all the wind. And then they played pretty well down in New England a couple weeks ago. And really, I thought we're the better football team. And I think they are the better football team. Buffalo has tried to run the ball. That's kind of been one of our themes all year long, is that they can't run the ball.
Yeah.
They've been going with a lot of 6 offensive lineman sets now. They have been running the ball a little bit better. But the reality is that their best runner is still Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is capable of going for 80 yards in any given game. But that's not who they are. That's not their identity. They are a throwing team. And, they're pretty healthy. I think the left tackle for the Patriots is out this week. He's injured. And let's not forget, remember 4 or 5 weeks ago, the Patriots had the best record in the AFC, and they were the number 1 seed. That was a long time ago. I've been saying all year long, I don't think they have a great lineup. I don't think they have a tremendous amount of talent on offense. I thought Mac Jones did a nice job at kind of managing things for a young kid. But they've got some problems there in New England personnel wise. Everybody wants a piece of Josh McDaniel now. the wide receiver Myers is questionable. Harris, the running back, is questionable, but they'll probably both play. I mean, we've all seen that many times over. Ramondre Stevenson's been a little bit dinged up. And so I just get a feeling that New England's going into this thing. They're not 100%. And Buffalo, I think, hey, I said they were in the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. We'll see. I still think personnel-wise, they might be the best overall team in the AFC. They have a really good defense, and offensively they can score a lot at times. So I'm going to pick the Bills. I'm like you. I'm going to give the 4.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with just about everything you said. At the same time, right? Like, aren't you sitting here going, Belichick's just going to prove us all wrong. He's somehow going to see the gods of odds this week and be like, screw you. And he's going to, he will have a game plan. There will be a strategy that will be executed. I think it's contingent on the running backs being healthy, and that was my biggest sort of concern here. Maybe the Patriots were playing possum last week with the Dolphins a bit. Maybe they purposely wanted to look like they were limping in. Like, I wouldn't put anything by Belichick at all, but this is the Bills and the Chiefs. Those are the two teams that should be in the AFC Championship game, period. I got to believe the Bills are going to take care of the Patriots in this one.
All right, let's move on to the next game. I think it's an interesting game. It's the Eagles at the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is an 8.5-point favorite, Dave, and I find that to be a really large number. Philadelphia, I thought, was the smartest team last week in sitting all their guys. They had some injury problems, and they recognized that they were likely going to be on the road regardless. So pick your poison. Do you want to play at Tampa? Do you want to play at Dallas? Where do you want to play? So they ended up falling and giving up a lot of points to the Cowboys. I think the Eagles had 17 starters that didn't play. But I've said all along that I think and I know they're playing Tampa this week, but I've said all along that I think if the Eagles I think that's the game Green Bay doesn't want to see, because the Eagles can run the ball and they run it really well. Miles Sanders says he's going to play this week. Tampa they've got some injury problems. Mike Evans will play, but both the running backs are dinged up. Ronald Jones is dinged up. How many times can Brady and Gronkowski do it? I don't know. I think it's a trouble spot. I know Tampa is a favorite by 8.5. I think this could be one of the upsets of the week. It wouldn't shock me at all if Philadelphia went into Tampa and won this game. So I'm going to take the Eagles in the 8.5.
I'm going to take the Eagles. I would be very surprised if one of my favorite young coaches, who's also a horticulture expert, Nick Sirianno, is able to. Is he one of your favorite, Nick? Is he one of your favorite horticulture experts? He's because he's planted the seeds. His team is growing. They're getting stronger. Oh. That was his big mid-season press conference. It's fantastic. So I just don't see the Eagles winning this game, but I do see them covering the spread. So, I mean, I've got to believe Tampa is, Tom Brady's not going to let them lose. We'll know pretty early on in this game how it's going to go. My biggest concern was that this turned into like a repeat of the Super Bowl and the Patriots the Buccaneers, just start destroying their opponent. But I think, they're hurting in a lot of places. They're going to get a couple people back in Tampa this week. I think Fournette is going to be back. There's a couple other pieces they're going to get back on the defensive side of the ball as well. I really do like this Eagles team. I just don't see them, winning, but I see them covering. So I'm going to agree with you, at least on the cover.
Yeah, you mentioned something there that kind of struck a chord with me, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was related to the Buccaneers, but anyways, let's move on. Yeah. I'm in agreement with you. I think the Eagles getting 8.5 is a good bet. I know what it was. It was Bruce Arians. You see Bruce Arians' comments this week on Tom Brady?
Yeah, that Tom Brady is essentially the National Football League MVP.
Yeah, he said it would be a travesty if Brady wasn't given the MVP. Do you feel that way, Dave? I kind of get a sense that Aaron Rodgers might deserve that award.
I think I saw somebody else in the media do this this week. They said, okay, who has the most passing yards? Tom Brady. Who has the best, sort of like passer completion rating? It was like he had like 7 things that he listed out. Brady won 4 of them. Joe Burrow won 2 of them, and Aaron Rodgers had 1. And that was his like statistical sort of like backup for sort of what Bruce Arians was saying. First game, Aaron Rodgers throws 2 interceptions. He throws 2 interceptions for the rest of the year. I mean, like, Bruce, I know there are all these other statistical categories that Brady actually wins on if you're looking at the stats from this year. But I mean, that's just unbelievably impressive. Clearly, Aaron Rodgers, political views aside and all the other sort of, anti-media spiel that he's currently sort of playing, all of that aside, for his play on the field, I think he absolutely deserves to be MVP.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the guys Tom Brady had around him, he had an all-star cast. A lot of them are dinged up now. But if you look at what Aaron Rodgers has got, he's got Devontae Adams and a couple of good running backs. He's made Alan Lazard into a good player. I couldn't tell you the pronunciation of the tight end's last name. It just seems to me like he's got the best record in the NFL. They're the number 1 seed. He's got the number 1 passer rating in the NFL. He's the number 1 passer rating in the NFL in the final 2 minutes of halves. To me, that's where games are won and lost. I think it shouldn't even be. I don't care how many statistical categories Brady leads in. A lot of those things are predicated on the guys around you.
Well, Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards as a quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers the year before Brady got there. The stat that I actually find interesting is the interceptions, especially when we're talking about like an MVP award. That means you're not making mistakes. That to me is what leadership is all about, minimizing the amount of mistakes you make. In football, that means not putting your defense in difficult spots. And that's really something that the Packers did not do at all this year. That's why I would absolutely give Aaron Rodgers my big vote. All right, Brad, who's pick?
I think it's you.
All right. So next up, San Francisco. It says it's America's sweetheart. The San Francisco 49ers. Oh, everybody's in love with Jimmy G around here, Brad. Jimmy G this, Jimmy G that. He's been so respectful in dealing with Trey Lance. So Jimmy G and the 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. It is the Cowboys favored by 3. It is America's trendy pick this week to take the San Francisco 49ers in this game for a wide variety of reasons. I do not know which way Brad is going to sway on this. I suspect I do. But I looked at this game and I said, oh, come on. It's like Kyle Shanahan is going to outthink things. The 49ers are not as good. Jimmy G is going to have an okay game, but he's going to sail a couple passes, well over wide receivers into the hands of defenders. This Dallas Cowboy defense, I'm assuming Micah Parsons was going to be back. Is just so strong. They're going to get in the face of Garoppolo. Yes, I know they have a strong running game, but for me, this is about the Cowboy defense shutting down this 49er offense, which I think they can at least do for 2.5 quarters. I believe that the Cowboys are going to win this game. I'll go and give up the points and take the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, I didn't even pick this game, Dave, just because I have no idea which way to go on this thing.
The rest of America is going with the 49ers. You should just join the rest of America.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is a tempo game. And what I mean by that is whoever sets the tempo early, I think, is going to win this thing. Because if there is a weakness on the Cowboy defense, they're not great against the run. And so if the 49ers get out and play their kind of game and get the running game going, I've said all along, Philadelphia and San Francisco are the two teams I think the Packers don't want to see because they can run the ball. But I do believe they have a problem at quarterback with Jimmy G. I agree with you on that. I don't like either one of these coaches. I was going to throw Shanahan under the bus earlier, too, when I threw the other three young kids under the bus because he's made a lot of puzzling moves this year as well. But the guy in Dallas, McCarthy, is not one of my favorite guys either. Remember a couple of weeks ago when McCarthy was out and we wondered if that was good for the team? And I think it ended up being good for the team. I think they won that week. So I've flipped a coin, Dave. And I am going because I think it's a really tight game. I don't think it's a blowout at all. I think whoever wins the tempo, to me, that's just a crapshoot. Who knows? But the home team generally is allowed by the refs to control the tempo. And so therefore, I'm going to take the Cowboys like yourself and give the points.
Yeah. And, look, Kyle Shanahan's record as a head coach in the National Football League is not as good as you think it is. 6-10 in the first year, 4-12 in the second year, 13-3 and 6-10, and then what they did this year. I'm just saying, Brian Flores, first 2 years out of the gate, did a better job as a head coach in the National Football League.
Nepotism, Dave. I'm not a big fan of nepotism and gravy trainers.
Yeah, I know. But Mike Zimmer, finished his career at 72 and 56. Would you rather have Mike Zimmer? I mean,
who was his assistant defensive coordinator? Mike, it was his son, right? I can't stand that nonsense. I always thought Shanahan was a shadow of his father, who I thought was a great coach, Mike Shanahan. And I haven't seen much out of the kid since he's been there, and he's always had a big name, and he's kind of been the Shanahans. They're like royalty,
He's 39 and 42 as a head coach in the National Football. If my math is right, which I just did on the fly, it's like I've been, sort of thinking this, for a little while now. He's just not that good. I mean, he's okay. I don't have a huge problem with, coaches hovering in and around 500, and National Football League's a tough place to play. But don't tell me he's like a bright young mind in the National. I have 80 games worth of data now to back up that I think he's a middle of the road head coach that makes middle of the road decisions. And you're asking, this guy to go into Dallas and take down the Dallas Cowboys this year with that, just not buying him.
Don't get me wrong. I'll be rooting for the 49ers in that game. Now, I don't know how you feel living up there. I know that you're kind of hit and miss on some of the local teams up there, but I will be rooting for the 49ers just because my bitterness goes back to the 70s with the Cowboys. So, I can't jump on that bandwagon.
It's pretty simple for me, Brad. I go, if my wife is watching the 49er Cowboys game with me, I will root for the 49ers in this game.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. And that is I think the easiest game of the week. It's the Steelers at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 12.5-point favorites. That's a lot. I don't think it's enough. I think Pittsburgh is a very, very I'm trying to be nice about it, Dave. Could Mike Tomlin have won Coach of the Year? How do you go 2 games over 500 with that roster? That's a terrible team, Pittsburgh. And yet they still keep hanging around. And Ben Roethlisberger keeps pointing to the sky after his team scores a big touchdown or gets a turnover, and but it's going to come to the balloon. The air is coming out of the balloon this week, Dave, and Kansas City's going to win that thing handily. I don't see it being close. I'm going to take the Chiefs and give the 12.5.
I mean, it's like, did you see Big Ben's press conference earlier in the week?
I did not.
Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's basically like, yeah, we're not supposed to be here. Yeah, we're not going to win this game. Like he's just like, I saw that and I was like, and I saw this game and there's a lot of people who are taking the Steelers because the line is so high, 12.5 points. I'm with you. I'm predicting, I'll just make this super quick. I am predicting the Kansas City will win this by well more than 12.5 points. But I did want to get onto the incredible job that Mike Tomlin did. And then also just throw in what if? Wouldn't it be awesome though, Brad? I mean, I get it right or wrong, lose money on this game, right or wrong. I almost don't care. If there's a upset I want to see this weekend, like just having Big Ben, sort of go through these AFC playoff games, with his inability to throw a football more than 25 yards and, sort of just carry this on over the next, 2 or 3 weeks. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see Big Ben find a way to win this game. And, I love Mike Tomlin as a head coach. I don't think that's going to happen, but wouldn't it be great though?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to probably find myself rooting for a lot of underdogs this week. Yeah. I'll be rooting for the Eagles, because I'm just tired of the Brady show. I'm just tired of the whole same storylines with Tom Brady and this and that. I mean, the guy's great. He's arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm just tired of it, Dave. I want to see a young blood in there like a Jalen Hurts and a Nick Sirianni go in there, and I want to see him beat him. And I want to see Deebo Samuel win in Dallas. To me, that kid is one of the best players in the league. 100%, he gives it every single down, and I think that's the least likely of the upsets. But I got to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles won, but I do not see the Steelers. You say you want to just keep a guy, look, to me, it's like when your dog starts getting sick and he can't do what he used to do and he's limping around, it's time, Dave. Everybody has to say it's time. And I think about mid-third quarter, Dave's going to look at the TV in the Steelers game and he's going to say, it's time.
I mean, I said it was time 16 months ago on Big Ben. But I just looked at this game and I was like, yeah, it would just be so much fun though to just see him like pull up it's the National Football League. It's Mike Tomlin. It's, it's Nick Bosa, or Nick Watt, whichever one of the brothers it is. It's one
AJ,
of the names.
Nick, who knows? There's like 40 of them, isn't there? If there is a plus for Pittsburgh, though, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is doubtful for that game. And I don't know that really means a lot because I don't think I think he's a marginal running back to begin with. And you know how I feel about running backs. You can just plug in the next one and you're going to be fine. What do you think? Is Tennessee, now we haven't talked about Tennessee. We're not going to talk about them this week because they're not playing, but Derrick Henry comes back. Is that good for them or is that bad for them? They seem like a pretty good football team without him.
Look, if the coaching staff can't figure out how to work Derrick Henry back into the mix, then they deserve to lose. Yeah, that would be my take on Tennessee. I by no means think it's a bad thing. I know where you're going with this from the momentum perspective. But I don't see it that way.
Well, I just kind of feel like it's a different team now than it was with Derrick Henry. And when they had Derrick Henry, they weren't close to winning anything. They didn't ever approach the number one seed in the AFC. And yes, Derrick Henry was great to watch. I think anybody could make a case that he's the best running back in the league, pre-injury. But does that style of play win in the year 2021? And it didn't win in 2020, and it didn't win in 2019. And Derrick Henry goes down this year, and they're the number one seed. So, I can't even remember.
They're either going to get the Raiders, or they're going to get the Bengals.
Right. And I can't tell you the last time a guy led the NFL in rushing and won a Super Bowl. It was a long, long time ago. Now, he's not going to lead it this year, but I think had he played the whole year, he would have. It's 2021, Dave. Teams don't run the football. And if they're going to just line back there and hammer it up the middle with Derrick Henry, I think they're going to have a problem winning a playoff game in a big game against the Cincinnati who can score points at will. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, it's so funny because the reason I got behind the Eagles is they were running it when everybody else was passing it. The reason the San Francisco 49ers have had any level of success is that they started to run the ball a lot, and of course they did use Deebo Samuel, their wide receiver, to run the ball a lot. The only reason the Buffalo Bills are in the position that they're in has nothing to do with their running backs, but has everything to do with a running quarterback. I think like this idea that teams can't run in the National Football League is just a falsity. I don't buy it at all. It's the same way I don't buy Matthew Stafford as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Look, I still think the Rams would have made the playoffs this year with Jared Goff, Marin Catholic's Jared Goff as a starting quarterback. Which just leads me into this Cardinal Rams game, Brad, which is our last game of the week. The Rams are favored by 4 at home. I originally said I have no idea who I trust, who I don't trust in this game. It's Cliff Kingsbury. Like, they lost to Seattle. It
was one of the games I got right last week.
I know. You were very proud. Like, you bet your whole week just on that one game.
Yeah, I didn't care about anything after that.
I've got to believe that I am going to go ahead and take the Rams in this game. I'm going to I think agree with you on this. I just can't get behind Cliff Kingsbury. I was definitely on the Cardinal bandwagon way earlier in the year. They've been, sort of all over the place. I feel like this Rams defense is way stronger than it was. I believe, Stafford is good enough to get the ball enough times to one Cooper Kupp. Their running game's gotten a little bit stronger. I really believe in this Rams defense more so than anything. And that's really what I'm picking here in this game.
So you're going with Matthew Stafford and the Rams?
I am, despite all of my spiel about him. He'll get at least one playoff victory this year. One and out.
Well, that might be his first win ever as a playoffs. Yeah, no. The Cardinals haven't played good football since DeAndre Hopkins went down. They won the one game out in Dallas, which I think was kind of a fluke. These two teams know each other really well. I'm a little concerned on that line as a result of that. The Rams are favored by 4. I feel like it's going to be it's going to be right around that number. But the Cardinal offense now, James Conner hasn't been at practice for 2 days. That game's on Monday, so they got a little extra time to try to get him healthy. But he's been a no-show at practice the last 2 days, and he's been really one of the better players on that team. Now, I like the other kid at running back as well. I think he's a good football player, so I don't think they miss a lot there. But, man, without DeAndre Hopkins, I just don't give this team a chance of going anywhere in the playoffs, and I think the Cardinal fans feel the exact same way. I'm not a huge Sean McVay guy. You know how I feel about him, but Rams playing at home, giving 4. I'll take the Rams and give the 4.
God, if a young AJ Green was on this team, I'd feel differently. But an aging AJ Green, who seems to be napping on his jogs down the field, really had me disturbed a couple weeks ago. Cliff Kingsbury, I it wouldn't surprise me. The truth is, it wouldn't surprise me if the Cardinals won this game. But being forced to pick it, Rams at home, that Rams defense, there's feels like there's a little bit more, vested in this. Look, if you're a Cardinal fan, you should just be happy you had the season you had. And I would say I'll leave it at that. So
I haven't been a big Cardinal fan, Dave, since Jim Hart and Terry Metcalf were playing. Okay, I mean, something about the Cardinals I've never liked. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the Cowboys, except the Cowboys I actually have reasons for not liking them. But the Cardinals, for some reason or another, this team is I've just never had any passion for. So that's like the one underdog this week that I won't be rooting for.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm going to root for a lot of dogs. I'm going to root for the Raiders. I'm going to root for the Eagles. It's going to be a fun weekend. Like you said, it is the best weekend of football.
Yeah, absolutely. The best weekend of football. Well, there you have it. It's our top 6 Gods of Odds, the only 6 Gods of Odds picks for the wild card weekend of the year 2022. Mr. Hoyes, have any parting words before we get out of here?
No, not really. We covered a lot there, Dave. I mean, it was we hammered a few coaches after they got fired. That's always easy and fun to do, right? And now we're picking on guys that are playing. So just 2 guys having fun talking football, and I'm looking forward to a fun weekend of watching games.
Let's see, Bob.
How do you feel? Line? How do you feel about the Monday game? By the way, I'm not sure about it. I don't know if I like it.
What's a Bob Uecker line? He's not the best color man in baseball for nothing. Yeah, I don't love it actually. It's nice because like most of our gigs at this point are at home, so you're in your day job on a Zoom call all day, and so I'm not like traveling next week. I'm not like going into an office, so I'll be home. So I'll just roll into it. But I'd be really mad if I was driving home from an office and to sort of, I don't know. I don't love it.
I'm not a big fan of the entire playoff format. I don't like the idea that just one team gets a bye. I don't like that. I mean, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to get more cities involved and more excitement, and they can put another game on TV. That whole thing, but it just seems like, when you look at somebody like Tennessee, for instance, was Tennessee that much better than the rest of the AFC that not only do they deserve home field advantage, but they also deserve to have a week off? I mean, it just seems like an obscene advantage to give to the number 1 seed, at least one of those 1 and 2 seeds that had a bye. It was a little more evenly distributed, the advantages. And then Monday night, the team that plays Monday night, are they going to have to play again next Sunday? I mean, to me, that's a big disadvantage.
Yeah. And then, for there not to be any, sort of like it's just, yeah, what's the solution then? You add another playoff team, Brad? So you can have, 2 teams in each conference with a bye week.
I think you add one more. I think you add one more team and nobody gets a bye. I've never liked the idea of a bye. To me, they get the advantage they get as the number 1 seed is they get home field advantage throughout. That's a big advantage. And so, I mean, you look at the Rams and the Cardinals playing on a Monday night. What have they done wrong that they get stuck playing Monday night and the Steelers get to play on Sunday? They barely, creeped into the playoffs, right? They got through the back door.
Right.
And so, to me, the Steelers are the team that should have been playing on Monday night. If you want to give somebody a disadvantage. To
me, it should have been the lowest seed team should have had to play on Monday night. So, this, but yeah, I think we'll end up in a world where there's another playoff team. I think the NFL will go to 2 buys, and that will be the math on it. I think your dream of making everybody play is not going to happen. But I do like having two teams with byes though in each conference. It adds more value to it. If you're going to have it. So,
all right. That's all I got. That's all you got.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, we wish you all a healthy wild card weekend. Please, everybody, do what you have to do to get Brian Flores back in the National Football League. Hashtag hire Brian. That should be the big hashtag right there. All right. For the Gods of Odds, that is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBop in Northern California, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out Mighty.Rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.